Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just barely, hi there. It's just barely 11:30, so I'll give folks maybe another minute or so to join. All right. Well, I see about 9 or 10, I guess 9 people without AI notes, counting that as a person. I think we'll probably have a few more join during today's session, but I will just get started. Let's see here. Just so you all know, I was on a few minutes ago and got kicked off by my own computer. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen in the middle of our session, but I do have a few other NBRC staff on the call. So hopefully they can pick up where I leave off if necessary, which hopefully it won't be. So welcome everyone. This is an information session for the Northern Border Regional Commission's Forest Economy Program grant opportunity. The session will serve as a resource throughout 2026, the 2026 calendar year, for both the spring and fall funding rounds. Just quickly, a few housekeeping items. Please, during the session, keep your microphones muted. This session is being recorded, and the recording and slides will be made available on our pre-application support page following the session, so you'll be able to find them there. I'll offer time for questions and discussion at the end of the session. If you have questions as we move through, feel free to pop them in the chat, and our team will do our best to answer as we go. Speaking of our team, I'm joined by our Catalyst Program Manager, Adrian Harrison, and our Program Coordinator, Casey Haynes. So you may see their faces pop up and their names pop up in the chat as we move through today's session. So again, this information session is focused on the Forest Economy Program, but we'll cover things like applicant and geographic eligibility, match and waiver information that applies across all NBRC programs. During this session, we'll dive into the pre-application. We'll dive into the pre-application requirements and evaluation, and we'll leave you with next steps and additional resources, and finally conclude with a Q&A. These are NBRC's 3 core grant programs. Again, today's session covering the Forest Economy Program. If you're not sure which program is the best fit for your project, I suggest you go back and review the program overview series that we have available, and will be linked in the next slide. But parts 5 through 7 of that series give a quick snapshot of each of our competitive grant programs. The overview series can be found on the pre-app support page that I mentioned earlier, and that page is on our website and linked on this slide. So the program overview series is a pre-recorded series, again linked here. So if you're just starting to learn about NBRC grant funding, this is a great place to start. The series breaks down the most important information to know in kind of bite-sized pieces. Each video, I would say, is about 5 to 10 minutes long. During this session, I'll quickly review eligibility and waivers again, as waiver opportunities are available at the pre-application stage only. If you're required to submit a waiver, it must be submitted with your pre-application. If your entity is required to submit a waiver, but it's not submitted with your pre-application, the proposal will be deemed ineligible for funding. We will cover some information on match during today's session too, and you can view part 2A of the program overview series to hear directly from our data reporting specialist about match requirements and available tools for identifying your match rate. The program overview series also provides a deep dive into NBRC funding policies and requirements. That's part 3, which are important, but we won't dive into during this information session. That part 3 includes information, a little bit about match and cost share, period of performance, ineligible purposes, how we treat program income, use of funding, the notice to proceed, NEPA, federal funding ceiling, things like this, and also includes information about the Build America, Buy America Act. So you can view part 3 available now on the pre-application support page. Also, I'll mention that part 4 of the program overview series covers local development districts in deeper detail than we'll get into during this session today. So before we dive into the Forest Economy Program and Spring Round info specifically, the first thing a prospective applicant should do when considering NBRC funding is to determine your eligibility. So we're going to dive right into eligibility requirements and match to start. You can also refer to the grant program user manual. That is kind of your dictionary to NBRC funding, and I really recommend leaning on that resource. We've put a lot of effort into it. It covers all of our programs and may answer most of your questions. So please do feel free to lean on that. You could have it open during this session today, but absolutely refer to it before you submit a pre-application. That manual is available in a few places. It's linked here, but it's also on the Forest Economy Program page, our program areas page, and the pre-application support page. So we're trying to find you with that manual wherever you go. The distress criteria is also on NBRC's website to help you determine eligibility and match for the project. So first you want to determine applicant eligibility, then geographic eligibility, which informs the reimbursement and match rate. And then you can identify waivers that may pertain to your project. First is applicant eligibility. Entities eligible for NBRC funding are listed here. So be sure that you fit one of these. I'll mention that for-profit entities and LLCs and other entities that are not 501c status are not eligible to apply for funding. So once you've determined your entity is eligible, next is to determine if your project is located in an eligible location. As I mentioned, the location of the project determines required minimum match for the project. Match is the amount of funding or contributions needed from other sources to complete the NBRC funded project. NBRC calculates the minimum match requirement based on the socioeconomic distress of your project service areas. So 3 things to know about match. First, match may be additional public or private funds, as well as in-kind or volunteer cost share. A project's match rate percentage is the average of each rate, either 50 or 20% associated with your project's service area. If the project spans a few municipalities, the final match rate will be the average of those areas' associated match rates. The percentage is then calculated on your total project cost. So for example, if a project's total cost is $1 million and the project is located in a transitional service area, the match rate is calculated at 50%. So the project could apply to NBRC for up to $500,000 and then would need to come with match of $500,000 for the project. I'll dive deeply here into match rates, but again, that overview series part 2A also provides additional information. Wanted to spend a few minutes giving you the background and then walk through how NBRC has worked over the past number of months to make match rates more accessible, easier to understand, and more in line with other federal agency partners, so that you don't have to manage maybe 2 or 3 different procedural match calculations in your capital stack. So first, we're moving away from using 2 terms. We used to use match, meaning the match percentage on only the NBRC funds, and then cost share, meaning how much it took to complete your project overall. However, we treated these the same. In other words, you still had to give us documentation proving you had match and cost share before we would issue the project a full notice to proceed to begin the project and be eligible for reimbursement. The requirement remains in place and aligns with industry standard practice for federal agencies. We are requiring this documentation to ensure you have enough funding for the whole project, because no agency wants to put taxpayer funding into a project in a community if you've not secured enough funding to complete the project. So you have to prove that you've done that. And I will say that you have to prove that you have all of that match specifically at, you have to outline it at pre-application and then have those funds outlined in the application as well. They don't have to be fully committed at application, but we do give folks 1 year from award to be able to secure all match. So we're moving to calling it match and cost share to just match. So we're asking now that the total project costs match is what you're showing us. We do have a note in our instructions if you're doing something really complex, say a multi-million-dollar infrastructure project, and you believe NBRC funds can come in early and be matched early, and then you can continue with your ongoing capital raising. We do recommend that you think about phasing your project with NBRC funding, supporting one phase. So we come in, support the project, it's matched, and then you can continue on with the other phases of the project. And that way you don't have to wait for to use our funds until the whole project is financed. Moving on, getting more granular here. We've enabled a few things this year that are new. We all know that our region has pockets of higher socioeconomic distress and pockets of socioeconomic distress. Sometimes those pockets are literally the town over from one another. So one town might have a university or a key employer or a recreation asset and show higher median household income and more indicators of good quality of life and opportunity, while the next town may have significant poverty metrics. When we use our distress metrics at the county level, we would sometimes lose the ability to fund a more economically distressed town at the match rate it deserved, simply because we were capturing all match rates in that county. In other words, some of our communities deserve more match from NBRC, but our data didn't capture those metrics. So this year we've changed that. We're excited to share that applicants can now choose county or community-based distress and select the project service areas at that granularity. And that formula, we have that formula and data in place to allow you to find out if your town is one of those that may deserve a higher match rate from NBRC. We have over 600 towns and county subdivisions across our 4 states that can now move from attainment to transitional match rate or transitional to distress match rate due to this change, and we're proud of that. We have 3 match tools available. So this map here shows kind of that, in 2025, looking at the county level, 2026, looking at the community level. Ideally, this would be really easy to transfer into our grants management system, but unfortunately, it's a little bit more complex. We've made these tools to hopefully make things a little simpler for you. So we have 3 tools. We have a static list now available online that has both your county's match rate and your community's match rate. So you can open that, scroll through the pages, and find your town. If your project serves just one town, and you can use that in the application and pre-application, that match rate. We have this GIS-based online map, which is a really cool resource because you can hover your mouse over your community and the match rate will pop up, in addition to the LDD who may be serving your region and a few other pieces of data. And then finally, let's say you have a project that serves 2 towns or 3 counties in a state. We used to run this match rate internally, but now we've created this Excel-based tool called our Match Estimator Calculator, or Match Rate Calculator, that will provide you with a combined rate based on the multiple locations of your project that you select. The most important thing to know about all of these is that we had to work on the back end to make sure things translate in our grants management system. And the easiest way to match things up is with this GeoID. So for any of these tools, the list, the map, and the calculator, you need to put in your pre-application and application, both the rate and the GeoID associated with that rate. And without that, the system doesn't work as well for us or for you. So that GeoID is, again, in all 3 of those tools. So whichever you choose, you'll be able to locate that. Our match rate page goes into great depth on this subject. The yellow star here has a link right to it. And again, these slides will be posted on our pre-application support page. We also have a section in that grant program's user manual that covers match and guides to available resources. All right, moving on, the next 3 slides will cover waiver opportunities. Again, these opportunities exist at pre-application only. And if your project requires a waiver and it's not submitted at pre-application, you risk that ineligibility determination. So first is the 75% expenditure waiver. An eligible applicant with an open or active NBRC award cannot receive additional investment from the commission until the current award has both submitted reimbursement requests totaling 75% or more of the project and demonstrated that 75% of the match has been expended before the pre-application deadline. And specifically, we look at before the first of the month of the pre-application deadline. So in the spring round, our pre-app deadline is February 27th, and we look at that expenditure by February 1st. For the fall round, we'll look at expenditures by August 1st. So if you have open grants, be sure to look at how much you've spent down and be sure that you meet that 75% kind of threshold, or look to the waiver request submitted at pre-application. This next waiver I'll cover is the significant benefit waiver. A significant benefit waiver request requires approval by the federal co-chair and the governor's alternates of all 4 NBRC states, and it must be approved for the entity to be considered eligible. Entities eligible for a significant benefit waiver are those who are located within an attainment county, but not within a distress or transitional community. or are located outside of the NBRC region, but within one of our 4 member states, Maine, New Hampshire, New York, or Vermont. If an applicant or co-applicant is required to submit a significant benefit waiver and does not submit the form fully executed with a narrative and affidavit together with the pre-application, again, that could be considered ineligible for further consideration. So there's more information on the significant benefit waiver in our grant programs user manual. Part 3 covers appendices, which is where our waivers lie. So be sure to check that out and find more information. Finally is the LDD waiver. Starting this year, this LDD, Local Development District requirement applies to the Forest Economy Program and all of our grant programs. So we require the use of a local development district for grant administration. An exception exists for this for state governments and LDDs. These entities are not required to use an LDD and are therefore not required to submit a waiver. LDD administration costs are required to be built into the project's budget during the application phases, including at pre-application. Once a project is awarded, LDDs are then paid to assist with administration tasks like reporting and reimbursements. If you don't know, LDDs are regional entities, often economic development corporations or regional planning commissions or councils of governments. We recommend connecting early with these folks. A current list of LDDs can be found on the About LDDs page linked here. And you can also find more information in the program overview series where our LDD coordinator goes into detail. It's part 4 on LDDs and how they can help you in administration. Okay, moving into the Forest Economy Program specifically. This next section will cover the program purpose, available funding, project categories, program evaluation priorities, state priorities, and you'll find links to view funded projects, including right on this slide, which I realize is cut off on the bottom. I'll fix that before these slides go up. But each of those state pages has our funded projects through the Forest Economy Program. So the Forest Economy Program is designed to support the forest-based economy and to assist in the industry's evolution to include new technologies and viable business models across our 4 states. The NVRC has made up to $4 million available in 2026. That funding is available for projects that demonstrate both readiness and projected direct impacts on the region's forest economy and communities. Projects must be consistent with the evaluation priorities of the program and, where applicable, advance local forest economy initiatives. It's also important to note that the Forest Economy Program funding is one bucket of funding, not divided by states. And for that reason, all projects are reviewed by NBRC and our 4 state partners. These are the most important kind of key dates for the spring and fall round. If there are, for any reason, any changes to these dates, they would be updated in the program timeline available on the program areas page and linked here. And I noticed Adrian just added the Forest Economy Program page in the chat and the pre-application support page. That's amazing. Thank you. So lots of places for resources. After pre-applications are submitted, folks can expect to hear back from us the week of March 30th for the spring round. with the status of their project and any feedback from NBRC. That may be an invitation to apply, if applicable with feedback. It may be a recommendation to submit in a future round with feedback. It may be an ineligibility determination. The same applies for this fall round. Responses to pre-applications we expect to go out the week of September 28th. Under the Forest Economy Program, the Commission is looking for projects that address one of these listed categories, or I should say at least one of these listed categories. So community development projects that support the diversified use of forests for economic activity, workforce training and development projects that do skill building, recruiting, and retaining workforce needed for forest businesses, business planning and technical assistance projects, public infrastructure projects that directly support the forest industry. And then this last category, marketing, communication, and education projects, must be paired with another of the four categories, but is an eligible category as well. I will note that basic research projects will not be considered. Research projects with a direct connection to industry, and that includes some like demonstration or applied research with industry would be considered. The next 3 slides provide examples of what types of projects might fit in each of these program categories. So starting with community development, an example project is a project involving construction or renovation of a community gathering space or public building, a town hall or public library or museum that uses mass timber, wood fiber insulation, and advanced wood heat. A workforce development example could be an initiative with connections to local businesses, which address statewide forest economy workforce needs, including careers in logging, forestry, and related fields. I'll say a workforce development project is more compelling when there are direct connections and links to the industry and support from businesses. For business planning and TA, an accelerator and technical assistance program is an example project, one that's designed to support forest product companies, maybe from emerging entrepreneurs to long-established firms in achieving their growth goals. The project could provide tailored guidance to help businesses scale operations, improve efficiency, or strengthen competitiveness, or prepare for succession and sustainability. A public infrastructure example could be a project to redevelop a shuttered mill site in a multi-industrial complex and prepare the site for industrial use by new businesses, including forest product companies. And finally, marketing, communication, and education, again, must be paired with another project category. But an example could be marketing to promote the environmental and climate benefits of forest management and forest products in ways that strengthen markets for wood products. You can find these evaluation priorities in the grant program user manual, but NBRC and states evaluate our project based on their ability to address at least one of the 5 program evaluation priorities. These are the priorities for making investments through the Forest Economy Program and should be closely considered when developing a proposal. So the agency would like to invest in projects that invest in the development and commercialization of technologies that create and grow needed markets, specifically for low-grade forest harvest residuals, that invest in workforce recruitment, development, and training to increase job placement, that help sustain and grow existing forest businesses and operations, such as through technical assistance. The agency wants to invest in projects that aid in the revitalization of rural communities through diversified use of northern border forests for economic activity, and that leverage some cases, existing or new partnerships to impact multiple counties or states or the entire NBRC region. Again, more information on these in the grant program user manual. Part 2B covers the forest economy program. I mentioned earlier alignment with state and local initiatives. So where possible, we're looking for projects to align their impact with what is needed locally. So these are the initiatives that we're looking at. The Forest Opportunity Roadmap in Maine. The Maine Tech Hub has information on the site links there. The New Hampshire Forest Action Plan. There's a section starting on page 149 that covers the forest-based economy. And then the Vermont Forest Future Strategic Roadmap and the New York State Forest Action Plan for that one, specifically looking at Goal 3 to increase forest benefits for humans and all living creatures. All right, I might pause there just to relieve my vocals and see if there are any questions before we dive into like pre-application process and requirements.
And a quiet group on chat, Marina.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep moving through. So this next section will cover the pre-application timeline, pre-application process for spring and fall 2026, process for getting started, the questions that you'll be asked, etc. We'll cover the state role in pre-applications and then what to expect after the pre-application. Again, all pre-applications must be submitted through the grants management system. Step 1 is to complete the registration of your account, and step 2 is to quote unquote qualify for the funding opportunity, which really just means once your registration is approved, you can follow the steps to click the qualify button and start your pre-application for one of our grant programs. The grants management system may be new to you, and we have guidance available for navigating it. That's linked here. We have a few resources for the grants management system. For today, we'll go over the questions that will be asked. So when you register in the GMS, it'll ask about your organization, basic details such as the name, address, type of applicant, your EIN, contacts, etc. To receive an award, you will need a UEI number. That's your unique identity ID. If you don't have one prior to pre-application, is a great time to register, which you can do for free at sam.gov. If you're invited to apply, all of this information will be carried over to your application. So you won't need to enter it twice. Once you've registered, you'll be asked additional pre-application questions. So you'll click that qualify button and start your pre-application. We ask if you have a previous NBRC, if you are a previous NBRC award recipient. This helps us track how many new applicants we have each year, as well as that 75% expenditure requirement. We'll also ask if your project serves a rural community with a population less than 5,000. It's not required that you serve a community of less than 5,000. Again, that's just a piece of data that we collect. You'll be asked to share the primary place of performance, essentially where the project takes place. This may or may not be the address of the applicant entity. You'll be asked to provide a zip code, county, and an option to add in the latitude and longitudinal coordinates so you can get as detailed as possible there. You'll also be asked for a project title, and we encourage folks not to include just say spring 2026 pre-application or something, but make it unique to your project. I'll start with budget information that will be asked at the pre-application stage. The first is a budget narrative. It's a text box where you'll be asked to list and describe expenses over $5,000. You'll also be asked to list out match sources in a table and the status of that match source. Could be committed, secured, or pending, and commitments or expected commitment dates are asked as well. All match does not need to be committed at time of pre-application or even at application. A project, if awarded, has 1 year from award to secure any pending match. I will caveat that projects with lots of secured match shows increased project readiness as compared to a project with like a big capital stack where all match is pending. So understand that when it comes to review, our states and NBRC will be looking at that. Again, it's not required that all match is committed, but it can certainly help. You'll also be asked for a detailed budget, which will show us how project funds will be allocated across categories, including how NBRC and the match funds will be allocated in the budget. These are the budget categories you'll see in the GMS. You'll be able to list costs according to the category. If you're familiar with the detailed budget form SF424 CBW, these categories align with that form. If your project is invited to apply, you'll be asked to submit the formal 424 CBW at application stage. For a list of eligible costs, ineligible costs, and ineligible purposes that apply to all NBRC grant programs, you can see Part 1 of the grant program's user manual. I'll also note here that the budget table will automatically calculate things like whether you're meeting the minimum match requirement. So just a nice feature. And if you're not meeting it, you will see like a red ribbon at the top of your screen at time of when you click the submit button to NBRC. So always recommend getting your pre-application together and trying to submit early so we can address any of the potential issues that come up. Okay, now that we have your registration, organization information, and some budget details, you'll be asked some narrative questions. Each text box has a 5,000 character limit, which is about 2 to 3 pages of space. We encourage you to develop your responses within a Word document so you can copy and paste that information into the grants management system. Now, note when you do that, the system may count invisible characters. So this issue can occur, and there are some steps you can take to fix it. So when you copy your content and right-click and paste into the GMS, it might count those hidden characters. You can instead copy and paste in plain text into a notepad or similar app like wordcounter.net, which will strip those invisible formatting characters, and then you can copy and paste from there into the grants management system and reformat as you'd like within the system. Always encourage folks to save their pre-application as they go too, so none of that information gets lost. The first narrative question is the project abstract. You'll be asked to provide a summary, identify the project category, describe the status of the project, the scope and tasks and activities, and anticipated time frame for completion of the project. The first 2 to 3 sentences of the abstract should give the reader a really good sense of the project and intended use of NBRC funding. Remember that NBRC and our state partners are reading through many proposals. So advice is to make your abstract narrative really clear and concise. It should explain the basic idea of the project and how it fits into the forest economy program. I would say it should be no more than 2 to 3 paragraphs long and cover primary purpose, the funding category, and a little bit about your project scope. Next are the project goals, outcomes, and outcomes. You'll be asked to list and explain the expected economic outcomes of the project. NBRC will review the project outcomes as identified in your application's KPIs. You won't need to enter key performance indicators or those KPIs at application, but I recommend familiarizing yourself with those early. They are in Appendix E of the grant program's user manual. NBRC and our state partners both place a strong emphasis on the direct and indirect economic impacts of a project. So again, be sure to review the KPIs and review them early and identify which ones apply to your project. Not all of the KPIs need to apply to your project, but there should be at least a few. Next is the program evaluation priorities. This is your opportunity to explain how your project addresses the evaluation priorities of the forest economy program. I recommend 2 to 3 paragraphs long of narrative, including information like describing how your project will address NBRC's agency investment priorities, program evaluation priorities, and details and documentation regarding your project's alignment with those. This narrative question on beneficiaries and community context is next. This is your opportunity to share who will benefit from the project, why it matters to your community. You may also explain the demographics of the community and, if applicable, how the project helps with your community's resiliency. Lastly is the statement of need. We'll ask about the challenge or problem the project seeks to address, the proposed solution, and the importance of the project at this time. This is a good place to connect to local initiatives in one of those forest economy like action plans at your state level. All right, and then that's the end of the pre-application, at which point you'll hit submit, deal with any error messages that may come up. Hopefully that's none. And then it'll be in the hands of NBRC and our state and partner reviewers. Okay, I'm going to pause again, see if there are any questions, and then we'll move into evaluation. Only a few slides left, I promise. Well, I'll keep it moving. Pre-applications are evaluated by NBRC and our state partners based on the scoring criteria in the grant program's user manual. So it's in one of the appendices for the Forest Economy Program. It's important to connect with your state program manager prior to submitting a pre-application. They might have insights and feedback to ensure your project aligns with state priorities. Again, noting that this funding is one bucket, so the applications will be reviewed by all 4 states, but you'll want that strong support from the state where the project is located. NBRC will also consider the costs and associated benefits of NBRC funding, as well as the benefits to the broader region. We'll consider projects identified as a state priority as well. The state program manager role in the Forest Economy Program is to assist in project development where needed and to review and assess pre-applications for alignment with forest economy priorities and local initiatives. States and NBRC decide which projects move forward to application, and invitations to apply will be issued by NBRC on behalf of both parties. If you're reaching out to your state program manager, I recommend completing the project interest form when you email them requesting a meeting so that they have some information before getting on a call with you. This program also utilizes an advisory board consisting of experts in the forest economy. Advisory board members may help NBRC market the program, and they serve as a resource in project development. Their primary role, though, is to evaluate proposals and provide sector expertise to our state program managers and NBRC for our evaluation. The advisory board does not score proposals. So some next steps here. Thank you all for attending this session. A lot of talking from me, so I'll pause shortly and again see if there are any questions. Your next steps are outlined here. Be sure to confirm your eligibility for NBRC funding, identify any applicable waivers, address your match rate, and begin to build your budget. Review the many resources NBRC has made available, from the grant program's user manual, that recorded overview series, the state priorities, to match tools and GMS guidance. I would say it's wise to self-classify your project to see if it fits well within the FEP project categories and addresses our evaluation priorities. As part of your review of the grants program manual, be sure to review the FEP scoring criteria and cater your pre-application responses to the required elements in that criteria. If you haven't already connected with your state program manager to confirm alignment with state priorities, you're encouraged to send those project details again via that project interest form. Please note that state program managers, as we get closer to this pre-application deadline, may be inundated with these types of requests on top of their other standard jobs. So try to get in touch early and be patient if you don't get a response right away. Questions about the GMS program requirements, NBRC policies should be directed to admin@nbrc.gov. And then also be sure to register in the GMS and begin developing responses to the pre-app questions. There is a period of time after you register where NBRC is reviewing your registration. So know that you won't just click register and then have access to start your pre-application. It will need to be approved by NBRC, and we're working on turning those over really quickly. I've listed several resources here. I think a few of those links were provided in the chat today. The grant program user manual, that pre-application support page has lots of info. The Forest Economy Program page holds the user manual. It also has the project interest form that was just linked. It has our program overview and one-pager, things like this. And then the grants management system, again, we have resources to help folks as they move through the pre-application process as well. All right. Pausing again. Any questions? This chat is a stark difference from our Catalyst program information session we just had this morning. We had like hundreds of questions. So hopefully I've answered any questions you might have had here. All right, I see a question. Is there a minimum or maximum amount for awards? Yes, the maximum amount we can award through the Forest Economy Program is $1 million. The competitiveness of this grant program varies based on interest in the funding. We have $4 million, and sometimes I would say often we get requests for at least double that. And I hope to see that this round. Good question about equipment purchases. I would say, Michael, if you want to send an email to admin@nbrc.gov, I can give you some information on that. I would direct you to our compliance manual that's on our resources page, but that is currently being revised. So I can actually get you some text to refer to in terms of how we deal with equipment purchases. So Erica asked a question about UEIs. So multiple sections of an organization with the same UEI would be treated as one agency. So there's an example of the university systems, a university and like cooperative extension would not be treated as different entities unless they have different UEIs. So those two under the same UEI would need to follow the same requirements as a single applicant entity. So the 75% expenditure applies to cooperative extension if the university has a grant existing with NBRC. Yeah, so as far as our project categories go, you can address as many of those as is reasonable for your project. So yes, the education marketing category must be paired with one of the other categories, and you can pair things like workforce development with community development. I'll hold on for another few minutes if folks have questions, but just want to say thank you all for attending. Again, the slides and recording will be made available on the NBRC pre-application support page. So if you want to go back and view any section or the whole information session over again, you'll have it there. Yes, our list of FEP advisory board members is not public at this time. We will have it, I expect, public before the pre-application deadline. Right. Thank you, everyone. Adrian and Casey, thanks for being online here and supporting the chat. Good luck in pre-application submissions, and be sure to send questions to admin@nbrc.gov. Thanks all.